Okay, this is Ben with Bates Nursery Botanical Bootcamp. Today we're doing another episode kind of on landscape drawing. And today is specifically about drawing landscape plans. Last week we did one on just basic landscape design, so we're talking just getting your ideas down on paper. This is going to be still simple, but we're going to do kind of a follow-up on that. So yeah, I've got a graph piece of paper down here, kind of like we talked about before, something simple. You could do this on a napkin, just printer paper, whatever you can find. And I'll give you a few pointers to make sure that you can make this accurate. So before you start trying to draw your plan, a few things you should do. One, get measurements. We've talked about that a few times. And here on my drafting paper, I've just kind of loosely labeled what the measurements are. And we're going to use my personal kind of front of my house because it's a very typical small single family home front bed area. So it's going to be common to a lot of you. So the measurements, we're going to get those off the structure. So the corner of a house, a porch, something that doesn't change is where you should get those measurements from. Whether that's a tape measure or a landscape tape or any measuring device you have, get those measurements down, write them down on paper, as well as writing down your existing plants, materials, hardscape, if you have rock, if you have pavement, just so you have an idea of what you have to work with. And I'm also gonna recommend that you find maybe a property map or some sort of drawing of your property so you have something to go off of. What I have here is a map print off from the web page of maps.nashville.gov. I've kind of written that on top here. That's a great resource, especially if you're in Davidson County. You can just type in your address and you'll get your property map down here. We kind of blanked out my address. But this is a basic property map. There's search bars, there's rulers you can use, and as well as layers, which basically are things you can put on your property map to show you floodplains. Here I have the topography, which kind of shows us where the water drains. So that is a great place for you to start if you're in Davidson County. Most areas in Tennessee have a central map service that you can just look up your property map. So great place to start. You can't get real close in, but at least it gives us an idea. I've kind of outlined my house floor footprint, so I have a better idea of what I'm looking at. I'll show you. This is kind of more specifically what you'll see on that website. So this is just my lot parcel, and I've outlined my house, so I kind of have an idea of what we're looking at, and then even outlined our topography lines, and we can even do a webinar or a segment on that later, how to read topography, but we can just basically see that the water drains to the back of the property. Good thing to know. And as well as you can do some of this off of satellite imagery. I mean, if you can't find your Nashville property map, you could go to Google Maps, and that could be a great resource. But here I can really see, you know, back patio, front porch, and that's kind of what we're going to be doing. I've kind of put a yellow line around that area. And this is where we're going to look at front porch of a house, very common, and that's going to be kind of our example today. So maps.nashville.gov, great place to start if you especially have a bigger property to do your plans. Okay, so this is, I've kind of transferred and blown up my measurements. A big thing to do is blow that up on the paper to a scale, a size that is readable for you, something you can actually draw on. You know, if this was shrunk down really small, I wouldn't be able to draw anything. So get this up to a scale. You may not be able to read this, but this is every inch is 5 feet, or every 2 inches is 10 feet. And that just lets me know if I measure this 2 inches, which is this section here, that's 10 feet. The grid kind of helps you without a measuring tool. Let me see if I have one here. You can use a scale or a ruler, something like that. You know, most people don't have scales, but let's see. So that would be 1 inch right there, and this is the scale I'm going to kind of use. So just know how big your drawing is so that we're not getting everything out of proportion. So yeah, I've transferred my existing site to paper. As we said, this is kind of going to be turned this way, if you can see that. So we've got kind of a front porch area with windows here, something else you should take note of. And I've transferred that here. So this kind of blocked area is the house. I've got a front porch. I've got a couple windows, very typical sidewalk. And then we've got a driveway coming in here. So, you know, we've got these typical small, maybe bed areas that we could use for our landscape drawing. It's a great place to start with, and that way you can draw on top of this. I got my measurements, all that ready. Again, this is kind of my personal front of my house. Pretty typical to smaller properties, so this will be a great example. Okay, so the first thing I would do after transferring your plan to a piece of paper, so you have something to kind of reference, is laying out your beds and your hardscape. So before you get into plants, I would start drawing your bed lines, where you want that bed. And I'm just going to use a clear piece of paper so we can just do an example through this. I'm going to grab a Sharpie here and just re-outline my house. We'll just kind of get an idea. And you can take as much time with this as you want. We're just going to kind of do this loose for example's sake. You know, landscaping is an organic thing. If you're going for something formal, you might get very accurate with these measurements. But this is just kind of an example today. Okay, so I've kind of just outlined, you know, my porch hardscape areas where we can't do landscapes. And I'm just going to grab a different color pen so y'all can see a little better. We've got a window here, window here, window here. I'll grab one with a little more juice here. So yeah, we've got this area. It's very obvious that this would be a garden bed area. You could form that bed however you want, and that this would be a garden bed area. And there's a window over here, so I might have a garden bed area here. So you just need to decide, you know, do you want your beds to be curved lines, flowy? Do you want them to be square, formal? You know, do you want brick edging? We're talking kind of about the style of your bed. If you want to get more accurate, sometimes we call that curvilinear or linear bed. So we're talking about how straight the lines are. I'm going to go ahead and draw maybe some practice bed edges here, see if I like them. I'm going to start with a fully curved bed edge. So I'm just going to kind of pull one out from the corner of my porch and see if that's a nice round one. So there's a bed I could go for. Like I said, this area is big, but you know, if I didn't want that whole area, I could easily put a bed in here. But I would probably use this whole area for a bed. And like I said, this area could all be a bed. I'll just give y'all one more example on top of that. We'll just use another color pen yet. Kind of a peachy color. So yeah, there's one bed. If I wanted to do more squared off beds, maybe I could just do them square. So I'll go ahead and draw that out, see what kind of I like. You know, there's two different ideas of beds right on top of each other. I'm going to go ahead and go with this square design, this kind of linear design. It looks good to me from this plan. Again, there's a ton of ways you could do this. We just want to get your bed area so we know what to plant and what to design in the plan. This area, we're just going to keep it squared off with the sidewalk and the house, and we'll draw that on another piece of paper. So let me go ahead and do that. Okay, so again, we're in hardscapes, bedding, mulch kind of period here. We're going to draw our porch and the house. Again, there are a couple windows, so we'll kind of draw those windows, which is important. That's where you're going to look out. Sidewalk, driveway. So these are our bed areas. I'm going to go ahead and do the squared off bed like we were looking before. and you can change colors if it helps you read it. You can stick with that. So this is the new edge of our bed. We're not going to talk about edging materials, but you could use whatever you want to edge, stone, metal edging, whatever you'd like. Here, we're not going to worry about that. So this would be our bed area. So now we kind of know what we're working with. The next step is to add your plant material. So I usually recommend, and we did have talks about this, about foundation planting. I would start with my foundation plants. I'm going to go ahead and use a pencil just so we can kind of make this erasable, or we can make it better. So this is the foundation of the house. I would usually start there whenever sketching out your plans. So, you know, we're talking about this area. This may be hard for y'all to see. This area and this area. So start with your foundation plants. You know, we know this space is 10 feet across. You know, most foundation plants are running between 4 and 6 feet. I really only think I'm going to fit a couple in here. So I'm going to go ahead and try that out. I'm going to try to plop a couple shrubs in here center. So we're going to draw the centers of these plants and just try that out. Maybe in front of the windows, maybe below the windows. Maybe we can do 2 in front of each of these windows. Okay, so I've got those kind of dots drawn out. I'm going to do some loose circles.
While we're brainstorming beds, Nancy's got a question. Can you have 2 different lines for the beds, i.e. make the left bed round and keep the front bed linear? Should they be the same?
Yeah, for sure. It just all depends on your style. Most people do a little bit of both. Most of my beds are curved, so I don't really have any straight lines. You know, if you're doing everything on your own and you're kind of doing it as you go, or you're just planting as you go, most of that's going to be curved and organic, just because if you're doing it yourself, you're going to end up not having straight lines. But definitely, absolutely, you can mix. That's where the term curvilinear comes from. You have straight lines, you have curved lines. You know, we could even curve the corner of this bed off and have straight lines and curved lines. Definitely feel free to mix the two. Again, if you have a certain style, if you're going for, you know, formal style or like French formal, then you may go all straight lines. Most good designs have straight and curved beds in them. I think a mix is a great idea. I like using grass as pathways. So instead of having like paved pathways, you might have grass instead. So for sure, mix it up, mix up your lines and your styles. It's a good idea.
One of my secret joys in life is going on to like Google Maps and searching the old estates that are around Tennessee, the bigger mansions and homes, and just taking a look at how they've laid out their garden beds. Some of the really old, like even historical garden arrangements are just so beautiful and geometric, and it really is inspirational for shape language.
Sure. And do realize with some of these more formal controlled ones, it gets to be more difficult and more expensive to keep them perfectly in line. So, you know, just definitely know, do this based on your experience level and how much time and money you want to put into it. Definitely. I got to take a trip to Italy a few years back, and we got to see all the formal gardens. I'd say 90% of people aren't in the market for something that fancy and that formal, but you know, there's definitely houses in Nashville that have fully landscaped, formal terraced gardens, which is awesome. More power to you, for sure.
Something to strive for, at least.
Something to strive for. You could do a miniaturized version. That's why the scale is important. So if you know the scale, we know we can blow things up or shrink things down. So, so I've kind of re-outlined the loose pencil lines I put on the shrubs. This is just one idea. So I've basically got bigger foundation shrubs around the house. I would start with those. If you want a shade tree, that's another big thing. So I know I have a tree out here in the yard. You'll want to start with your bigger plants when you're drawing. And I know the canopy of this tree goes out here. That tree canopy is a good thing to know about because that tells us shade. So we'll probably get a little shade in here, but generally this is a full sun area. So yeah, I've got the foundation plants, you know, any shade trees, start with those, get those onto paper. I haven't measured these, but this is a good thing to go back and measure. I'll go ahead and tell you, these are probably, just looking at my graph paper, these are probably about 3 to 5 foot across these shrubs. So this could be boxwood, this could be Distilleum, this could be dense yew, this could be knockout rose, this could be azalea. So there's a lot of things that fit in this category. Even if you don't know what you want, at least we know how big we want these shrubs and kind of what we want them to look like in the bed. We can look up options, and that'll be our last step. So yeah, so we're laying out those beds. I was going to say next I would move on to like perennials, grasses, annuals, the next step down.
We have a question from
Sure.
Rachel, who is our first declared viewer from England across the pond.
Cool.
Shout out. Do you find that clients expect SketchUp/digital drawings, or is the hand-drawn method still acceptable? She just says adjusting hand-drawn drawings can be kind of tricky.
Yeah, for sure. SketchUp is a great resource. You know, I was, when I went to university, I kind of got to learn a little bit of both. Now, I was basically taught that if you don't know how to do the hand-drawn method, you're really not going to be able to make a good design in SketchUp, because you do need to realize what it takes. There's a whole slew of digitally based landscape designs, and they get the point across really readily, really clearly, and they can be faster. You can even do it in Photoshop. You can do it in Microsoft Paint. It really doesn't matter. You can totally do digital drawings. The cool thing about our images from the Nashville mapping system is you could copy and paste this straight into, say, SketchUp or something like that, and use that as your scale. It'll keep scale consistent. So yeah, definitely digital media is a great way to do this if you're experienced with it. I do think just hand drawing is more approachable to a wider range of people. So yeah, I would recommend doing whatever makes you comfortable. A lot of times, if you can just start with rough sketches, transfer it to SketchUp or something like that. So I think everything's acceptable. If you are hiring a designer to do this, anything hand-drawn is going to take longer, is going to be more expensive. So, you know, do consider that. This is more do-it-yourself. If you can do it yourself, you know, play around with it. Totally. SketchUp, great, easy, approachable, and I believe free software for design.
I think they have a free version. Also, I mentioned this in the last landscape design webinar, but as an amateur myself, I used an iPad with a pencil and just imported a photograph that I took of the back of my garden, or an aerial photograph, like a screenshot from Google Maps, and then began to draw over that. Yeah. And
I'm a big fan of using everything at your disposal. So I don't think one way is right or wrong. But do use everything yours. I will tell you, once you get into making it look organic, it's much easier with hand-drawn and paper. Sometimes the digital plans I see are very sterile looking. So it's more of a visual thing. As long as you can get your point across, do whatever makes you feel comfortable. You know, we can help you no matter what you have here at Bates. So yeah, I've kind of, while we're talking, I've kind of just put in where other plants may be. I'm kind of just using dots as the centers of my plants. Right now I'm kind of working on smaller stuff, perennials maybe. You know, I've put these dots. These might be little spireas, maybe little barberries, nandinas, something smaller. Again, we put these pretty close. We can make hedges, which we did a talk about a few weeks ago. But I'm just going to kind of draw circles. I'm going to say these are perennials. And then I've kind of drawn these little lumps, these little kidney-shaped areas. A lot of times when I'm looking at annuals, flowers, I just like to put a zone. You know, you're going to put whatever makes you happy that year. Whatever color you're into, put that there. So I like seasonal beds. I'm going to go ahead and outline these.
And Ben, has been kind of doing this. I guess it's kind of like a little multi-part series. We haven't really called it that, but he started with introduction to small space shrubs and also introduction to foundation plants, which really leads into landscape design and drawing.
Yeah. And there's, I mean, we could probably go on for hours and hours and days on this. I just want you to feel like you can get it on paper so that you get an idea of what you're doing. You can totally design off the cuff and on the fly. But, you know, if you're one of those people that really wants a plan, this is what you can do. But yeah, this is just basic. Like I said, this is one idea I'm getting on paper. For time's sake, we're just going to kind of run through one idea. I would recommend doing several ideas. I mean, do this 4 or 5 times with different plants, different layouts. Maybe at a later date we can do elevation drawing, which is basically what it looks like from the road, which is another way we can draw from digital pictures. So yeah, so here's just one example. I've kind of just had fun getting the plant layouts here. I didn't mention hardscape, so bed edges. It's good to know where your bed edges are. Maybe label what you're going to put there. So yeah, we did foundation shrubs, shade trees. I would kind of move on to perennials. You know, next stage in your garden, we could have several layers of perennials. And then I've kind of blocked out these annual areas. So this could be pansies, it could be vinca, it could be any annual that you like. And you could even get into more detail in this area. You could zoom this up and really plan out this bed. But yeah, we've kind of got this basic idea. The next step, and really the last one, is to kind of start listing and labeling. So we've got these plants. We kind of like the way they look in that bed that fills it up. What are we going to put in here? It's nice to have a list, you know, kind of like we have this little example at the bottom here telling us what we're seeing. It's nice to have a list of plants. So I'm going to get kind of just a easier to see dark marker. So we could do this on the paper. We could list them on the side, however you want to do them. But I'm just going to draw a line from these plants. And like I said, we're going to do this kind of freehand. You can use a ruler if you want. But let's just say this is plant number 1. And all of these plants I'm just going to list as number 1. You could list it on the plant. We could even just put number 1. This is boxwood, let's say. That's a real easy plant to use in a landscape. What are our perennials going to be? I mean, you could have several things. So we're just going to label these. Maybe this is plant number 2, and this is coneflower. Or, you know, you could list out your substitutes for those. Maybe this is grasses. And this is something we can help you with at Bates. If you kind of know what you want to find a variety, a size that fits, we can really help you out with that. And then I'm just going to write annuals here. I think having a homeowner's choice area to put what you want seasonally in there is really something that gets overlooked a lot. So we've kind of labeled 3 plants. Like I said, you go crazy, have 3 or 4 different perennials, different shrubs in here. But I would go ahead and make yourself a list whenever you're getting close to kind of looking at your plants. We're going to look at boxwood. You know, how many of those do we have? You know, we have 6. And then our coneflowers, you know, that's plant number 2. Let's say those are just on the side. We've got 3 of those. And so on and so forth. So, you know, grasses, we've got, you know, say those are all at the base. We've got 7 of those. So this is just an idea to give us basically a shopping list whenever we go to decide how much of this landscape to do, how much it's going to cost, plant size. So, you know, how big are these plants going to be? Usually people like to get them all at the same maturity level so they all grow together. So what plant size are we going to use? I mean, are these going to be 3 gallon? Or are these going to be 1 gallon? which is a size we usually use here at the nursery, is gallon pot sizes. So as you're doing this, or as you're finishing up with the plants, don't forget to write down what plants you want, what they're going to look like, how big you want them, because that can all kind of help us decide what plants you want, how many, and what your price is going to be for this landscape. So something definitely to consider. As well as, we didn't really talk much about mulch. But you do want to use your measurements on the beds to say your area and depth. So, if you're doing these beds from scratch, you may want to start with a 4-inch mulch depth so you can actually get that bed set. So you're going to want to measure the area of your beds. If it's 10 by 10, we're looking at 100 square feet. If it's 6 inches deep, we're going to divide that by half a foot. And then we would have like 50 cubic feet of mulch, and that tells us how much we're going to need to get. We do carry our mulch in cubic yards, and we do have formulas here at the nursery to help you with that. But, knowing how much mulch you're going to need, that's something to think about. Whether it's mulch or pine straw or whatever you want to use, something to think about whenever you're putting your plan down on paper. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of get a real basics here. We could totally go into more depth. We can always get more specific on this plan. But I just want to give you all an idea of how to get started. We really want you all to give us any questions you have so we know kind of what y'all are having issues with or what you want to work on. But yeah, and my basics is just have fun with it. Gardening is something that we grow with and that we want to enjoy. So just make sure that you're having fun with it and that you can have fun once you're able to enjoy your garden. Multiple different ideas, try different things. I wouldn't stick with my first idea. Do a couple and see what you like and go from there. So that's the basics of what I have right now. Definitely let me know if I can show y'all anything.
Barbara here brings up a good point in regards to designers and drawings, saying that she worked with one who did digital and one who hand drew. In both cases, she ended up having to go research the actual plants themselves to get a better picture.
Sure.
Which I would say, if you're positioned close to Middle Tennessee, Bates Nursery is a really incredible place to get that visualization done, because we carry such a wide variety of plants and trees, shrubs. And we have people who have experience with them, like, he mentioned for that smaller space shrub, like spirea is good. Abelia is another amazing one that's like evergreen.
Yeah. And if you have the size of the plant, you don't necessarily need to know the plant, but if you know how big you want it to get, we'll give you a list of what's going to work for you, and then you can kind of pick.
And also on these lovely spring days that we're having right now, drive around Nashville, enjoy the weather, and then be a creepo and take photos of people's shrubbery.
Absolutely.
From the road.
Absolutely.
Or Google Street View. Spy a good garden, go back home, go to Google Street View and grab a screenshot of their landscaping. Another great way is to visit either a botanical garden or in this case, Ellington Agricultural Center. At the UT Extension office there is a great demonstration garden that has a lot of mature plant specimens, especially shade plants, which are difficult to find mature specimens of all in one place. That means like ferns and hellebore, and other hosta, things like that really give you an idea of how big these plants are going to get.
Yep. And a picture, they say a picture, is 1,000 words. Take a picture of what you see. It's getting ideas for where to get started. You need some influence. no garden really just comes out of thin air. It's something we've seen or something we've passed, and we get this idea in our head. It's nice to know where we're going to get that idea or some source. I mean, yeah, walk around. I've just walked around downtown areas or certain areas of Nashville and just saw, oh, I like that house, that landscape. Take a picture, and then we can transfer that to our garden plan. You know, if you don't know what the plants are, bring us a picture. We can help you identify it.
And in a modern way, we now have access to all of these awesome landscaping companies that are on Instagram. They're posting pictures of their work.
Sure.
If you want something similar, bring in a photo. We'll try and ID the plants or send them a message and be like, what is that you installed?
Sure. Some people have their secret formulas and they keep it close to heart, but most people want to share something. So, like, you know, maybe you see something you like and then you kind of find this combination of plants that is totally your thing and you think it's special. You know, write that formula down and use it through your garden. You know, say you like this combination of plants. Definitely embrace that as your own and use it. I mean, you know, gardening's all about discovering a new way to do things. So, yeah.
We got one statement from Rachel again here. I normally set up a Dropbox with the client, share images of the plants. I think that would work. So that's very nice. Giving them a visual assist.
Yeah, and we get a lot of people taking pictures of plants on the lot. Definitely. I mean, see what they look like here on the lot. See what they look like in an existing landscape.
Have somebody stand in for scale. Bring a ruler. Take a photo with a ruler. Yeah,
scale's really important. Just knowing how big your house is, how big the plants are going to get. You know, we don't want to put a magnolia on the corner of our house, and our house is a single story, and that magnolia gets to be 3 stories tall. You know, that's really going to mess with our stuff. So, as we're talking, I just kind of had some reference material in this book. I'm just going to kind of, this is more of a drawing textbook, but so y'all can get an idea. You know, if you're trying to get more detailed in your drawing, there's all these methods for drawing plants. You know, there's suggestions for the right ways, but so you get ideas of how to draw. Maybe we could do another webinar down the road for like drawing trees and shrubs, like specifically drawing them. I don't think everyone needs to be able to do that, but you know, if you want something artistically pleasing, definitely, you know, we could do a talk on that. Like all these tree symbols, these are kind of neat to see, just kind of what plants look like from above. So, you know, we could do something talking more about that.
We do have some questions piling up here. Tricia asks, when designing for a more rural, rustic location, do you still use formal foundation plantings or more native plants?
Yeah, I mean, you can still use foundation native plants as foundation plants. Usually, we're using evergreens for a foundation plant, but you know, as long as your idea of what the landscape's going to look like is open, you can do whatever you want. I mean, you could use something like Itea, which is a great native kind of colonizing shrub. Usually you see it on the edges of beds or on wood lines, but you could definitely put it up against your house. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great idea for that rustic look. My house, I actually have a lot of non-evergreens in front of my house as foundation plants, and I get this kind of seasonal color where I don't get with, you know, if I had all boxwood and holly, it would stay green all year round, and it would have a very formal, reliable look. But if you're adding more things, like I said, Itea or Father Gila or something like that in there, you're going to have a little more of a rustic country look, which I think is great. A lot of people go for like that more cottage garden look, which would be like large annuals all the way up to your house. I mean, I don't think there's any wrong way to do it. But like Tyler said, if you see like a rustic style garden that you like, take a picture, or you see it in a magazine, you know, clip that article out, because that's going to give you an idea of how to make it look. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I mean, I think using natives is great. There's not a lot of evergreen natives that are foundation size, so that's sometimes kind of difficult.
That UT Extension Garden, by the way, has an example cottage garden. It's probably looks like nothing right now, but when I visited in late summer, it was lovely and so many varieties were in there. It was really worth a look.
Seasonal interest too, we didn't draw that into our plan, but talking about seasonal interest, once you get those plants drawn on your plan, maybe instead of having them all be one, you decide that, you want half of these to have fall color. And that way you're getting seasonal interest. So instead of going with all hollies, you could throw something else in there to like really break it up,
Candy corn, spirea.
I have a Belia in front of my house, and that has really great fall color.
It's crazy. Kaleidoscope.
Yeah.
Look that one up. Kaleidoscope Abelia.
I have Canyon Creek. It's got a little more of like a subdued orangey tone. So if you're going for more of a subdued garden, if you like bright colors, write that down. We'll use color. We'll use variety. Whatever you like, whatever you see you like, let's try to emulate that.
Moving forward with questions, we got one from Meg. I've always had a hard time with sun mapping. I know the sun changes significantly from winter to summer. What are your tips?
Yeah, sure. Sun mapping. We didn't do north to south on here. Let me see if I can find one of these with shade. But it is important to know where the shade's going to come from, and we could even do a talk on that. But you can do cast shadow on your plants, which is really going to help you visualize where the sun's coming from. Let me go ahead and go. So, if this is north, if we say north is that way, and we're going, wait a second, I got that wrong. It's kind of weird looking at a compass upside down. So if we've got east and west going this way, we know just generally that the sun is going to go from east to west. You're right, this does change in the winter a little bit. But when we're looking in the middle of the day, that's a good time to look at sun. So we're looking at like noon when the sun's the highest. That sun may kind of come, that's going to be kind of hard to see. It sometimes will have kind of a curved pattern. So maybe the sun kind of does one of these things where it kind of has it starts curving different times of the year. But we're still getting shadows going this way, shadows going this way, and shadows going that way. When we're drawing in plan and thinking about the sun, you can actually look up, you could just Google online, like summertime Nashville, sun position in the sky in June or July. I usually recommend using summertime, middle of the day sun position to do my drawings, because that's going to be the most consistent as far as shadow and where it's casting. You can pick whatever time of year you want. Summertime is usually the most difficult on plants here. So when we're looking at sun and shadow, I would use a midsummer sun position, typically middle of the day when I'm drawing it. So if we had like a tree here, and our sun is in this position, I'll draw a little sun. If our sun is kind of coming over on this tree like that, and we'll say maybe it's a green giant, it's going to cast a shadow. And like I said, we could get into more detail maybe later on that. But this way we know if the sun is here in the sky, and say this is July in the middle of the day, noon to 1 o'clock, you could put a drop shadow on that tree, and that shows us exactly what's going to be shaded. This is a more advanced kind of thing with drawing, but generally, like I said, I would do summertime if I'm planning in Middle Tennessee, summertime sun position, somewhere in the middle of the day. That's a good idea, just to know where your sun's going to be.
Yeah, and factoring in your neighbor's shade would probably be if you're doing border plantings. Important
walls
as well. We got another question here from Nancy. Recently, we took out several large Nandina. I've heard that the berries may not be good for wildlife, and they could be invasive. What are your thoughts?
Nandina domestica, which is just the straight species, no variety, is really the only one I would be concerned about. Here's a drawing with some nice cast shadow on it. You know, as far as taking them out, I wouldn't really worry about putting something else in their spot. I do believe the berries are toxic to animals, especially like pets. I don't know that birds pick them off the tree, but this is mostly just Nandina domestica, the big one. You know, if you like Nandina, the firepower Nandinas, all the rest of them that are dwarf, they tend not to have the issue with berries and invasiveness. So, you know, I think if you're going away from that main large variety, go for it. But just do be careful if you're getting the straight species. They can get big. They can produce berries. You know, if you have pets, kids around, maybe find a better option.
Rachel's asking, are there any drawing books or guides you'd recommend?
Yeah, I mean, I've got kind of here more textbook guides. You know, this is a pretty old one. This is Landscape Graphics. This is by Grant Reed, who I believe is a landscape architect, which is the LA here. You know, this would be a great book. Soft covers, nice and affordable. If this is an old textbook, usually you can find it. And these things haven't changed too much. I think this is 2002. This is a good one. I have this other one that's by Tony Bertowski. This is going to get more into like detail with color. This is the one that has more of these images. You know, it depends on how deep you want to get. I'm not really sure what kind of do-it-yourself drawing books there are out there. I'm sure there's some, but you know, some of these, anything that's plan graphics, if it's talking about landscape design, anything in that category. If it's talking about landscape architecture, that's usually more structural and strict and regulated. So anything that's with landscape design, I'd say go for. This is something you could probably find at like McKay's. Cool thing is they'll have like pre-drawn examples. So you can see those. I think this has full color in it as well. Yeah, so you can get an idea of color.
For those who aren't from Middle Tennessee, McKay's is a used bookstore.
Yeah, so a used bookstore, you know, a lot of times university students who are just trying to make rent will sell their old textbooks. A great way to get some used books. I usually don't buy these new. But yeah, anything with color is really nice. We didn't talk about color because that gets pretty deep, and I think you can go a bunch of different ways with it. Oh, this is what I was looking for. So someone asked about the digital landscapes. Here's an example of one probably done. I mean, it could have been done simply in Photoshop. Other things like SketchUp, there's three-dimensional programs out there. But, you know, this is generated in a computer, so it's visually pleasing to your eye. You can tell it's computer-generated, whether you like that or not. But as far as, like, labeling your plants and getting an inventory list, makes it so easy. So, yeah, so when you're talking about software-rendered landscapes, you can totally do it. You're probably not going to find as many books about that. But yeah, I mean, anything you can find that's landscape design based, I think is a great idea. As far as what I learned in school, there's so many different methods. You just find whatever method works for you and you like and you have fun with. Me personally, I do a lot of marker work, but you know, here is colored pencil. And colored pencil has a really neat look to it. You know, if you're into doing things artistic, I mean, just try your hand at it. You know, maybe we could do a talk down the line just on drawing landscape objects and plants and having fun like that. Any like worksheets you can find, anything with just black and white so you can practice coloring or drawing inside is a great idea. So yeah, I mean, any books, like I said, old textbooks are a great resource. They're pretty easy to understand.
And do you use the anise plant much here? It is evergreen, but it seems it can get quite big.
It can. So what they're asking about is Alyssium or the anise tree. Yeah, they do well here. They're better for wet areas, so that plant doesn't really like it excessively dry. So if you have a wet area, I recommend them in part shade here in Tennessee. So they don't love our scorching heat. They don't like our hard freezes and open areas in the spring. Florida sunshine, just Elysium, just your straight species, they can get big. I have one in my garden called Banana Appeal, and that thing's only supposed to get 3 or 4 feet. I'll tell you what, it has not gotten above 2 feet in the past 2 years. So, no, there's totally varieties of the anise tree Elysium. Like I said, Banana Appeal is a specific one that stays small, and we will carry that. So, yeah, we can find one for your garden. It's a native, but like I said, typically for wet areas.
All right, if anyone else has any more questions, go ahead and submit them now. I'm just going to go ahead and say, well, first of all, thank you for tuning in today.
Thank you.
We also have a webinar coming up tomorrow around noon. Austin Lowen's going to go over roses, Roses 101. Austin can really get on about some roses. If you have any questions pertaining to that topic, because it's rather broad and he is looking for some direction, you can DM our Instagram with questions. That's at Bates Nursery. You can also send an email to info@batesnursery.com. And just say like attention roses or rose webinar or Austin, and those questions can be forwarded to him. We also have a lot of stuff coming up in March, and I think we sent out a survey as well to some of our previous participants. We're working on getting some feedback for our summer webinar schedule. We're heading into our busy season right now, so our webinars will slow down a little bit, and we might transition to some more pre-recorded content that we share as videos. Let me pull up our calendar here. Yeah, so next week we're hopping in with Austin, Introduction to Grafting. That should be an interesting one to watch. We actually do carry a lot of our trees here at Bates Nursery are grafted, and we have some that have multiple varieties of fruit grafted on, so that's an interesting one. March 10th, definitely check this one out. New plant varieties in 2021. Ben is going to be hosting that one.
Yeah, excited about that one.
Yes. Oh, my goodness. And we're already getting some new stuff in here at the nursery. Sensory Gardens, another Ben one.
Yep.
March
very excited about that
16th. We're trying to incorporate some of those aspects in our own demonstration garden here at the nursery. Then we've got companion planting. I'm going to be teaching that one. Container gardening across the seasons, now that we'll have annuals for Austin to plant. Cut flower gardening is going to be wonderful. Brewing gardens, I'll also be jumping in on that one as well. That's berries and hops and things for brewing, kombucha, beer, etc., mead. Fertilizing plants and trees, and gardening checkups. So
cool.
Yeah, lots to look forward to. Trish is asking, who do we contact at Bates for design help?
You're welcome to contact me. Now, I mainly, I'm here to help people firsthand find plants. I mean, we can kind of help you with an existing design. I don't specifically sit down and do design work. I don't sit there and take consultations and do full designs, but I can definitely get you in the right way. I'll do what I call napkin designs. So if whatever paper we have available, a piece of paper, we can kind of do an impromptu sketch of your space there. But yeah, come on into Bates, especially if you need some design help. It'd be best to come on in because it's a very visual thing. It's hard to do over the phone. But yeah, I'm Ben Trest. You're welcome to come in and pick my brain. Any of the people out here on the lot can absolutely help you with their design. We may not be able to sit down and draw it up for you, but we can help you with it. I'll be honest, I'm not sure exactly the landscape designers in Middle Tennessee that you would want to go to. I really do think a lot of people can do it themselves for what they're looking for. You know, if you're trying to do an entire property, a full-on plan, you may want to go to a professional landscape designer that would charge you by like the hour of the drawing. So, but yeah, I mean, if it's something that you can do it yourself, come on in and pick my brain, and we'll help you.
Yes. Rachel also asked, do we work with permaculture? We work with some people, who have either permaculture related projects.
Sure.
There is a pretty big dedicated permaculture school nearby, and I believe it's Summertown, Tennessee. Spiral Ridge Permaculture.
Yep.
I don't know if they source plants with us, but we do carry a lot of natives. We carry Baptisia, which here is blue false indigo, some prairie plants that are good nitrogen fixers, and we want natives as well, which I think are just great to incorporate anyway. We also have, things like daikon radish that you could use to plant in your garden that breaks up your soil.
Yeah. And permaculture, I'll say, I mean, I have done independent study in permaculture. That's kind of a hot catchword in the landscape community, and mostly people understand permaculture. Sometimes I'll just call it sustainable landscape design, or basically we're just looking for in permaculture to use what we have to use the land in a sustainable way, to where we're actually using the land, not taking away from it. So a lot of that is more just a design perspective. If you get really deep into permaculture, there's experts that know how to make a property 100% sustainable. Depends on how deep you want to go. But definitely look for anyone who does designs that says native, sustainable,
water catchment,
water management, just generally water management, what to do with our water. So more and more landscapers are going that direction just because it benefits everyone.
Yep. And Terry did a really good webinar on rain gardens 101 as well as composting 101. All of those things, important aspects. If you're really trying to do a holistic system, you might want to incorporate livestock like chickens or bees that benefit, because permaculture includes covering multiple facets with different things, so these systems interconnect.
Yeah, and that goes into making a list of what you got on your property to use. Before you start planning, what do you have? Do you have wet spots? Do you have extra cedar wood you need to use? Like, what do you have? What's your inventory on your property, and how can we use those things? I'm all about reusing what you already have. You dig rocks up from the ground, let's use them. So that pre-planning stage of getting a list of what you have can be really important in permaculture. So, yeah.
Yep. And there's plenty of resources out there if you want to look at that. There's videos, there's example permaculture plans that are drawn up, so you can kind of get an idea of how encompassing those are. And there's a zone-based system that usually people use to kind of maximize functionality. Question from Rachel: is it true it's illegal to collect and store your own rainwater in some areas of America? Possibly.
Yeah, it is. That's more of a municipal regulation. You do have to be careful. I believe maybe it was in Davidson County at one point, but Davidson County now distributes rain barrels. So
they have a subsidized rain barrel program, and a required for new developments in Metro. Rain gardens that catch the stormwater runoff. Yeah. And that they're required to maintain those as well. So it's not just a one and done.
Yeah. You'll see that a lot, like say if you go California, really, really dry areas with water tables that are not reliable. So here in Tennessee, we're lucky to have a lot of fresh, clean water. If you go to places where it's more susceptible to drought, or water can be hard to come by, those are the places where they'll typically restrict water catching, just because that water moving downstream and into their whatever water processing can be really important. So just, there's usually a reason why they're doing it. But yeah, you know, usually it's not heavily enforced for just a rain barrel. You know, if you're catching hundreds of gallons of water in your cistern, that may be a problem. So yeah, definitely look at your local regulations.
Yeah. And with that, I think we're out of questions, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up. We're a little bit over time. But thank you, everybody, for joining us today. And Ben, you want to say anything else to wrap up?
Yeah, thank you all for joining us. So like I said, I know we kind of grazed the surface, but you know, we definitely got more we can cover down the road. So thank you all for joining us. Spring is coming very quickly.